In this video, I'll demonstrate an advanced use case of Blueprints as I document a farm of servers that supports a website. So here I've already logged into Blueprints using Firefox, and I've created the server S1. And now let's create some additional services on that server. Site1 and Apache on S1. And let's have Site1 depending on Apache. And then let's also create some interface. ETH0 on S1. And on that interface, let's create the IP 10.1.1. And on that IP, let's create port 80 on that IP address, and we'll have Site1 listening to port 80. Zoom that out. And so now here you can see the interface with the IP and the port, but let's say that this interface is actually teamed with another interface. So let's create that configuration. So for that we'll create another interface, bond0 and ETH1 on S1. And then let's create a logical object called team on S1 to represent the teaming. And so now we can have bond0 depending on team, and team depending on ETH0 and ETH1. And so here's the logical interface of the two physical interfaces that are bonded together. Now you can see that the IP address is still on the physical interface, so let's move that to the bonded interface. And so let's also create a switch for these interfaces to plug into. So we'll create switch SW1, and on that switch we'll create some interfaces GE0 and GE1 on SW1. And we'll just zoom that out here. And then let's create the connection between ETH0 plugs into GE0 and ETH1 plugs into GE1. So now we have our physical server plus the switch and the connections between those interfaces. And so let's create a logical cluster object. So we'll create a cluster C1, and on that cluster we'll create a service Site1 on C1, and we'll also create an IP address 10.1.10 on C1. And so let's create some logical objects. HA VIP and Site1 dash round robin. And so let's say that Site1 on C1 needs Site1 round robin, and Site1 round robin needs Site1 on S1. And then let's create the relationship for the load balancing of the IP address. And so we'll say that 10.1.10 needs HA VIP, and HA VIP needs 10.1.1.1. Okay, so this is actually an abstract object that represents the high-level website plus the virtual IP address that's going to be load balanced across multiple member servers. So here we have only one member server, S1, but we're going to create another server just like this server to represent another one of the farm servers. So to do that, we can just say create S2 like S1. And when we do that, the system will actually clone that server and all of the relationships. So here on the top is S2, and you can see it also is related to the site round robining and also the HA virtual IP address. So it recreates those relationships, but you can see we have a problem here in that it has those interfaces also plugging into the same interfaces on that switch, which is not what we want. And also we actually cloned that IP address, and so it created that same exact IP address. So we can actually do better than that, and let's undo that. And let's clone that server, but also let's clone 10.1.1.2 like 10.1.1.1, and also those interfaces. So we'll create GE2 like GE0 and GE3 like GE1. And now when we run that command, it's actually going to clone these objects in a set. So we have the two servers now with different IP addresses, and we've already created those additional interfaces. So let's zoom that out one level here. And so you can see the high-level object is load balanced across these two servers. Now let's say we have a location, so we'll create a location. This is a physical location object to represent where these physical resources reside. And we can say that Orlando locates S1, S2, and SW1. And so there you have it. Now we have a physical location with our servers and the switch at that location. Now let's say we've really got a larger web farm here, and it's actually located in multiple cities. So if we want to, we can create another city just like this city that houses all the same infrastructure. And to do that, let's render this diagram in a top-down fashion. I think it'll fit on the screen a little better. And let's hide some of the information that we're seeing. So in this case, we'll hide the team interface. Let's hide the port 80 and Apache. Okay, so now we can zoom in. And so here's that high-level cluster, and it's being load balanced in Orlando on these two servers. So let's create another location, and we'll create Tampa like Orlando. And so now we have two locations just like each other. They have multiple servers and a switch. But you can see we have the same problem where we created those IP addresses with the same IPs. And so now we can undo that, and let's do that correctly. So we'll create Tampa like Orlando, and 10.1.1.3 like 10.1.1.1, and 10.1.1.4 like 10.1.1.2. And I think that should do it. And so now we have the right IP addresses here, and we have the 4 servers now in our server farm. They're being load balanced together to provide service for this site called Site IS1. So there you have it. That's modeling a farm of servers using blueprints. You can check out some of the other videos that show how to interact with such a model, or how to also collaborate with other users and build information together.